Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to the first day of Core Set 2019 previews. Now, this is the first official day of previews when it comes to a regular rollout of cards like they do for every set. Granted, because of the events and everything going on, we've seen a lot of this set already. But there's a lot of incredible cards that were revealed today. You see two great reprints on the title screen. We'll talk more about those in a few moments. But quickly before we get started, just a really fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel. One of which is our Patreon page, that's below. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases on Amazon, no matter what it is actually, we'll get a small percentage for the channel if you go through that link. Finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers, so hopefully you can save some cash while you support us. As always, thank you not only to the viewers that check out those links, but to all of you. Y'all make the channel what it is and are important to me, so let's get into it. Okay, the first few cards I wanted to show you actually were brought to my attention by one of the subscribers, Patrick, who posted these on Twitter. But he had opened some packs of Dominaria and was lucky enough to hit some of those core set commons in there. Now, he found a bunch of cards actually, but these four in particular we haven't talked about before, so I just wanted to point them out to you. Angel of the Dawn is the first one. It's a white and 4 common angel 3/3 with flying. Whenever this enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. Pretty decent limited card here. I mean, it can give you one big push, maybe even to close out a game or get past a board stall. And it's also a 3/3 flyer for 5. That can be just good enough anyway. Aviation Pioneer, blue and 2. This is a human artificer common 1/2. When this enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless top tier artifact creature token with flying. So you're getting 2/3 power toughness on the battlefield for 3. Actually feels pretty good for limited considering 1/1 of that is in the air. I'm sure as we see more of the set, we'll see more synergies with artifacts, which makes this card probably more draft playable than it is just right now in a vacuum. But this is one that we'll probably have to kind of think about as we see some of the other cards come out. Havoc Devils, 2 red and 2. It's a devil, common, 4/3. It has trample. A very serviceable limited creature that can push across some damage, perhaps late game if you can buff it. The last card, we didn't get to see the name of it, but it is a green and 1 instant common. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So not just to creatures, it's all combat damage. Pretty cool fog effect for 2 at instant speed. And I feel like these type of effects can be good if you draft a few of them sometimes. You can kind of get your opponent every once in a while with a crackback. However, like as a one of or something, a lot of times in my builds, I don't necessarily mess around with them. But every once in a while, I will play these. Death Baron. Now, we talked about this card the other day, so I won't go into the details here, but a couple days ago, they revealed that this was one of the cards that would be in the set, and they showed us the promo version that they were actually giving out at GP Las Vegas. And today, we got a look at the regular set version, so I just wanted to show it to you. Resplendent Angel. Okay, here's a mythic. 2 white and 1. This is an angel. It's a 3/3 with flying at the beginning of each end step. If you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. 3 white and 3. Until end of turn, Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. Wow, okay. So a 3/3 angel for 3 with flying, I mean, that feels pretty good on its own. I mean, this card definitely feels mythic to me. And then you tack on these other abilities to boot. Let's talk standard quickly. I feel like maybe there is a Angel Tribal build coming. I can't believe I'm saying this, but you have Lyra, you have Shalai, you have others out there, and now you have this. This is kind of the linchpin card that I think can actually give you the curve you need to get to your bigger things. Now, with that being said, you want to gain some life. Maybe it's a black-white deck because there are still a lot of ways to gain life, even from Ixalan block and those colors, and perhaps you mix some vampires into this too. I don't know. This could be kind of interesting. Start brewing. I'd like to see what y'all come up with on this one. Aside from that, limited, this thing's a bomb, first pickable all day long. Mirror Image. It's a blue and 2 shapeshifter, uncommon 0/0. When this enters the battlefield, you can make it a copy of any creature you control. So it's 1 cheaper than clone, but it's a little weaker because it only can clone your stuff, not anything else on the battlefield. That feels especially bad when it comes to like Commander or something like that. But, you know, in limited, clones are just fine. Typically, clones aren't cards you play a lot in standard, at least in recent years, because they are too dependent on board state a little bit, and the 4 was asking a little bit much. 3 is a lot better, but again, it's still, I think, too dependent on board state, especially considering now it's only half the board state it can look at. So, yeah, limited, I'll play this and probably like it. Don't know if I do much with it outside there. Dark Dweller Oracle. It's a red and 1 Goblin Shaman. This one is a rare 2/2. Pay 1, sack a creature, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Okay, so I look at this card first off from a limited point of view. 2/2 for 2 with upside. Sign me up. I like it. It's also a goblin that could very well be relevant as we see more cards. We're already starting to see a lot of goblin synergies start to form. And that ability is good to help you burn through your deck if you have some creatures that become obsolete. Now, in the limited game, you're probably not creating an engine necessarily to burn through your whole deck most of the time, unless you get a really good draft going, maybe, I don't know, and the pieces are actually in the set. We don't know that yet. But if you do, well, wonderful. But I think for the most part, you're just looking for value here. A creature that's going to die anyway, you activate this, get a card off it, that type of thing. It could actually be quite good for you there, I think. What about standard? Well, the thing with this to me is, first off, you have to keep in mind that this was previewed by Trick Jarrett. He loves the red jank. So is this good enough to see standard? I'm a little torn because I like the ability a lot, but then it is a little too dependent on board state, and red is just such a powerful color right now. Am I trying to dilute what red's trying to do with something like this? I don't really think so. And also, you do have to have the mana to cast whatever it is you hit. That could be awkward, especially considering the activation not only eats into your board state, but also is costing you mana, so it's going to, every time you activate it, make it harder and harder to cast whatever you find on top if it is something larger. So I don't think it really works out there, unfortunately, but I do like the design. I think it's pretty cool. I can see myself running this in a Goblin deck in Commander or something, just for fun, maybe creating tokens, trying to burn through those to get through my deck. Valley Veteran. Okay, we got some more Goblin synergy here. This is a red and 3 Goblin Warrior uncommon for 2. When this enters the battlefield, it deals damage to target creature an opponent controls equal to the number of goblins you control. So if you don't have any other goblins, it's still going to ping at least, because it itself is a goblin. The first thing I thought of when I saw this card was Flame Tongue Kavu. However, it's not as good as that card simply because I do have to have some other goblins to really have the impact that card had. If I do, wonderful. And again, this is a card that might be great in draft if you can draft a bunch of goblins. Maybe even in sealed it could be good if you happen to open a lot. Again, we don't know the makeup of the set with commons and uncommons yet and all that. So this card could be great actually in limited. It could really kind of turn a board state, and I do like that as long as there's enough support for it. I do think it's a little clunky again when it comes to standard, even if there was a goblin deck in standard, just because it is a little too dependent on board state. And you don't want to really be playing 4/2s for 4 typically. Even in limited, that's a little hard to absorb because you don't want these things to trade down. You're just really banking on the fact in those cases that you're able to take something out when this enters the battlefield. Elvish Clancaller. 2 green, Elf Druid. This one is a rare. 1/1. Other elves you control get +1/+1. 2 green and 4 and tap. Search your library for a card named Elvish Clancaller. Put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. So right on the battlefield. That's cool. We'll talk limited first on this one. We don't know exactly how many elves and again, the rarities and all that. But if there's enough out there that you can draft, then this will be a good draft pick for you. It's a rare. If you get it, you're lucky to begin with. You're probably not going to find 2 hardly ever. But at the same time, it's still fine in limited because giving a bunch of elves +1/+1, that could be good enough, right? For 2 mana, that's actually not that bad, even though this is a little fragile as a 1/1. Standard, the big problem for this card is simply Chain Whirler exists. So, yeah, could you imagine playing this on turn 2, trying to build off this, and then your opponent just plays the Chain Whirler, blows this up, and where are you at? You're facing down a 3/3. First striker with nothing, and that's not going to be very good for you. Because that card is around, I don't really see this card being able to take off in standard. Now, what about other formats? I mean, Modern and Legacy Elves, I don't really think they need this. Not to say when it tested there, maybe I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I think those decks are streamlined enough without something like this. And aside from that, Commander, yeah, I might throw it in an elf deck. I mean, obviously it's not as good in singleton formats because you can't have the multiple copies. That ability doesn't do a lot for you. But again, if I just want another Lord for 2 mana, it's probably playable. Satyr Enchanter. This is a white, green, and 1. It's a Satyr Druid uncommon 2/2. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Now, I love these type of enchantress creatures that let you draw cards off enchantments. These are always awesome. It is a 3 casting cost 2/2, so you are kind of paying for the ability a little bit, but that's okay because the ability is great as long as you have enchantments, and that's the caveat here. Again, we don't know what the full set looks like. How good are the enchantments? How cheap? How plentiful are they? If they're around, then yeah, this becomes very, very playable. If I draft a deck with them or have a bunch of my seal pool that are worth running, then wonderful. If I don't, though, I'm probably not going to run this card because I'm not paying 3 for a 2/2. That's not going to do a whole lot for me, right? Now, aside from that, again, I feel like this is a little fragile and also a little too dependent on having decent enchantments for standard. There's some good ones out there. We see Seal Away everywhere and all that stuff, but I don't really think that's going to be consistent enough, unfortunately, especially for 3 casting costs 2 different colors. So, I don't know. I like the card a lot, and I do see myself maybe playing it in casual builds where I'm running a lot of enchantments. I thought for a hot minute about Modern Boggles, but again, for 3 mana, I'm just not feeling it there. I would test it, though. Again, sometimes I am surprised by these things. Palladium Ores, the Ruiner. I love these legendary creature Elder Dragons. This one's awesome. It's mythic, white, green, red, 3, 6/6. Flying Vigilance and Trample. This has hexproof, if it hasn't dealt damage yet. Now, that goes for the whole game, not just per turn. Once it deals damage, it loses the hexproof. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I just kind of wish it had hexproof, but that would be really powerful. A 6/6 Flying Vigilance Trample hexproof for 6, that'd be kind of insane. So I like what they did here. It's pretty elegant design, actually. They're able to still kind of give you the option to have the hexproof temporarily, so that most of the time this is going to do something before it gets blown up. And I love that, actually, because now I'm in a situation my opponent can't just use a removal spell on it when I play it. They have to wait till I either block or maybe attack with it, and something happens where damage is dealt. Then they can go ahead and take the creature out. So you get something out of it for the mana you're putting into it. Limited, first pick all day long. This can win you games in sealed or draft. This thing is incredible. You won't see it often as a mythic, but when you do, try to grab it. Now, you do have to worry about the consistency of your colors and mana and all that, but hopefully you'll be able to make it work. If you can, this will do great work for you. Aside from that, would this see play in Standard? I think it's really cool, but I do think for the 6 casting cost, it might be difficult in some decks. Just because, again, the Standard format is very powerful and streamlined right now. When you have things out there, like even Rekindling Phoenix, I mean, that's a really good option, too, if you just want to push damage across, and it's a lot easier to cast. So I don't know if this card can really fit in. I might think about a control deck, but the problem with that is your control decks are usually within the Esper colors in some combination. So white's here, but you'd have to work Gruul into that, and that feels a little awkward to me. So I don't know if it really gets there. Even if you're trying to reanimate things, there are other good reanimation targets aside from this, perhaps. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if it's doing a lot there, but casually, like Commander, another awesome dragon for your dragon deck. I really like the design of these cards we're seeing so far. Here's a reprint, Scapeshift. This is phenomenal. From Morningtide, it's never been reprinted. The card will run you about $50, $55 right now for that version. Foils for Morningtide will run you about $140, $150. This is extremely welcome to see in the set. Fantastic reprint here. Even at Mythic, I'll take it because we just needed this card out there for players. Now, of course, this sees modern play in Scapeshift, Titaninshift decks. And if you're new to Magic, when the name of the card's in the deck, it's usually pretty pivotal. So it is good to see this out there for players that maybe haven't had a chance to play with that deck and would like to. Standard, yeah, it does interact in an interesting way with deserts. I don't know if that's fast enough, but I at least want to try it out. Limited, they probably need to give us something to do with this. It is Mythic, so they don't necessarily have to, but maybe the Urza lands come back. That's possible, just because that would at least give us something to do with this. But of course, we'd also have to have a payout for the Urza mana, which, I don't know, maybe Ugin, I don't know. We'll have to kind of see what happens over the next few days. But, at least for right now, I'm just really happy to see this. Crucible of Worlds, another amazing reprint of Mythic. Again, just happy to see it, even if it isn't Mythic. You saw this on the title card, you know what it does, I won't spend a ton of time on it. It is played in Vintage, Modern, Legacy, and more importantly, maybe a lot of casual decks love to have stuff like this. And this is an expensive card. I mean, if you went for the original version from 5th Dan or the 10th edition version, they're going to cost you around $65. This did get a masterpiece, it had a Judge promo, but finally it's being printed in a regular set where players can get their hands on it. I don't know if this does much in Standard right now, because we already have Ramunap Excavator, and that's not doing a whole lot. Now, maybe this card in some ways is more stable. You could try to brew something, maybe with Deserts, and see if it could work out. But I just don't know if what you're going to go through to get the combos is worth the payout at this point, especially considering how fast Standard can be. But maybe in the future, post-rotation, if they give us some other tools, it could be interesting. We'll just have to wait and see. Limited, this might not be a great pick for you, even though you'll probably rare draft it, let's face it. But are there going to be a lot of payouts? Remains to be seen, but we do have a lot of the set to go still. Magistrate's Scepter. This one comes to us from a Japanese language preview. You see that on the right side. I put the original version of the card on the left so you can kind of see the translation if you're not familiar with it. But this has never been reprinted, and it's not a super expensive card. Usually you can find these around the $6 mark or so, $5, $6. The foils are around $30, and it is a good commander card, especially in like a Drechsler builds or something like that, which of course is being reprinted right now in the Commander Anthology Volume 2, so this feels like actually a pretty timely reprint for this card. I don't really see it doing anything in Standard. It's just a little too expensive and a little too slow, I'm afraid. But it is a cool casual card, and I might play this in Limited, depending on what my deck build is, too. Alright, with that being said, those are the cards for today. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to look at everything that happens over the next 24 hours, and I'll keep you posted on all the cards coming out. We'll talk about them. Until then, though, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.